And if anything was streamed before this point in time, just forgive us. Just forgive us. We didn't know that we were on public display. So the Deputy Mayor has just advised me that her meeting doesn't start at 12:30. It starts at 1 o'clock. So we have decided to do the big issues first, which are quarrying, SAMS and Six Star. So can you highlight for us the quarrying recommendations? So just tell us which page to refer to. Hang on, 125. 125, yes. Yep.
And then over the page, that one also. At the very top of page 127 is the 1 metre.
Okay, so that just in a nutshell, tell us what the request was from the Minister, what officer recommendation is, what your reasons are, and what you're recommending to us.
In terms of the rural chapter overall, the Minister provided a number of comments and recommendations, largely relating to ensuring that the rural chapter was in line with the the decision on strategic directions, statement of expectations in the Order in Council. So as in response to those comments, one of the what I have recommended is originally we were proposing to add to the strategic directions to deal with the rural environment. I'm now recommending that we no longer need to do that because of the way that the strategic directions decision has come out, and it's dealing with some high level issues relating to activities across the city with a focus on recovery and, in my view, issues relating to rural areas and activities can be adequately dealt with at the rural chapter level. And as a result of that, this recommendation plus on 125, plus there is another recommendation on page 130 that has resulted in a revision or amendment to objectives and policies in the rural chapter, not changing their intent but merely reflecting the fact that no longer going to add to strategic directions, and largely following from the Minister's comments about clarity, interpretation, ensuring that outcomes are clear and not confused within objectives and policies. So the intent of it has not changed, it's merely clarifying the purpose of the rural chapter.
So can I just be very clear? The Minister's comments on earthworks were not helpful comments in the slightest. And so we had actually written to the Minister saying we actually wanted it to be a prohibited use within 1 metre. This is while you were away, Leanne.
Yeah, and he replied.
And so what we've got here is restricted, what you're suggesting is restricted discretionary?
Yes.
That's
and so just remind me where this
127.
comes on the hierarchy of what's... So the hierarchy is...
The very worst is prohibited.
Yeah, very best in this case, yes.
And then it's discretionary, coming down one. Then it's, then it's non-complying. Then it's discretionary, and then it's restricted discretionary.
We're actually going from prohibited, which we asked, to restricted discretionary. We're going up 3 steps of the ladder in terms of tolerance of this.
We didn't put prohibited in, did we?
We tried to at one of the meetings when you were away.
Yes, I know, but
we were told that we couldn't.
No, well, no, we wrote to the minister saying, please comment
Yes, I
on
know,
this.
but the
Yep.
minister's since replied to that letter.
Yep, so before that, we were looking at non-complying,
Yes.
and now we're changing from non-complying through discretionary to restricted discretionary?
The officer's recommendation is that yes, to be consistent with the regional policy statement.
Right, so
But we
we've had
have
this
since
meeting.
been advised by ECAN,
That we can go-
commissioners, when we met with them, that it doesn't, that is a minimum requirement, not, it's not the limit. So they could fully appreciate why we'd want to protect against something that was never anticipated, which is multiple sites at once exposing the aquifer.
So just in terms of what we can now do legally in terms of this document, can we now go to prohibited?
No,
Okay?
because we
So
can't, because the
right.
minister hasn't directed
Okay,
us.
so can we go to non-complying where we were?
We can leave it at non-complying,
So
yes.
that's the best that we can get
We
to is
can
non-complying
reject
Right.
the staff's advice
and suggest
and
non-complying.
suggest non-complying.
I would like to do that.
Remain at non-complying. So you'd like to move that?
Yes.
Vicky would like to move that?
So if we could, it should be
And you want to second that?
recommendation, is that 113?
113 on page 126, 127.
Recommendation 113.
Yeah.
On the spiral bound copy, yeah, on page
That's the little
126 and
blue-
127.
The blue line.
The minister's comment is the blue line. The officer's response is underneath. On the right-hand side, where's your 1 metre rule?
Yes, on pages 49 to 53, specifically paragraph 258.
So it should read on pages, what page? What page is the rule on?
127 through to 129, the rule sits on.
127 to 129. Change restricted discretionary, restricted discretionary to non-complying.
Or leave non-complying as it was, actually.
But we have to.
Yeah, okay,
What we're
no.
doing is amending the officer's recommendations
Got that,
to
yeah.
non-complying for the 1 metre cap rule. Does that make sense?
Maximum
Yeah.
depth of excavation.
You made a mention, Brigitte, then that the reason for that, and it's referred to in that blue line recommendation 113, is that it relates to the regional policy statement.
That's correct.
As far as consistency goes.
Yes.
Now, whereas there have been a number of things that have been raised today that we have balked at but have to do because we are directed to do so and in order to be consistent with other things, I'm talking about the Minister's recommendations.
And the
If we-
RMA.
Yeah, right. So if this is something that we would like to do, as I would like to do and as Vicky has expressed as well, is there any point in doing it if in fact it is not consistent and is just going to get kicked back?
Well, the argument is probably the debating matter. So.
Oh, okay. Yes,
no,
that
well,
was-
in one
yeah.
sense, that is the whole point. And I said this at the outset, that we're going to find ourselves in a position where we're asking staff to notify a document that we know has not met the minister's expectations. But the minister's expectations in this regard have been predicated on the basis that the inconsistency with the regional plan is something that should be avoided. In this case, the regional plan was never, ever determined on the basis that you would have multiple applications into the groundwater, exposing the groundwater at multiple sites all at once. So, yeah, absolutely. We can, and ECAN will support us. So I think that we should make it very clear that when the recommendation change the restricted discretionary to non-complying for the 1 metre cap rule, I think we should explicitly say
On the basis.
because the relevant provisions in the regional policy statement never anticipated multiple exposures of the groundwater to whatever the word.
Contamination and that ECAN
Yeah, but, yeah, so,
Sorry, I can't hear you.
When we have to give evidence, talk about the economic implications of any contamination of our groundwater aquifers, because those, although it's
well,
monitored by
Environment
people-
Canterbury commissioners had indicated support for this position. I think we don't want to say that they had actually, because they didn't have a vote or anything at the meeting.
They don't vote.
I know.
And any consequential amendments, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Just-
Is there anything else in the quarry chapter that becomes more liberal towards quarries that aren't picked up?
Just a moment.
Hang on, can we just deal with one at a time? So, now, is this just the, so that recommendation is now wide enough to pick up any other changes that need to be made?
No, if you don't mind, at the end of each one, and any consequential amendments.
Okay.
For example, we'd need to amend the section 32 and what have you. Just if you just put that will allow us to make changes when these rules are referred to in other places, if they are.
Yeah. Yeah, it needs to, yeah, Ali, I think, is wanting to second this. Yeah, because I think that what we're trying to do is we're trying to establish that, you know, we have taken into account what the ministers have said, but we don't think that the ministers have taken into account the fact that the regional policy statement, you know, sort of, it's another lifetime compared to the situation that we're in now.
You have had particular regard to their comments, correct? And
Absolutely.
the minister wasn't a party to, or the ministers to these discussions.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
perhaps just for ease of reference, if we could put just above the 6.1 quarrying, just so that we can understand what each exception is.
Yeah, no, sorry, the 6.2.1. So,
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
yeah,
Just put the little heading quarrying or something.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah, that's a little heading.
Thank you.
Just joking. All right, so is there any debate on that? Yanni?
Like, we're basically, if we do this, we're going to be, I just want to check with staff.
Oh, sorry, you still on questions?
Yeah, if we do this, we're basically duplicating a function of the regional council. We're not meeting the statement of expectations or the strategic directions. Is that correct?
It's
From
arguable.
a legal point of view?
It's arguable.
Well, no, that's the advice that we've been given.
From an officer's perspective, those are the reasons that have been given for changing.
Have we got legal advice around that? Because I think this is a really important issue.
Legal advice around what, sorry?
Around what we're proposing.
What do you mean legal advice?
Well, because if we're going to do something that's not appropriate and we want this to go through, then I think it's quite good.
We're going to get whacked by the... No, we need to put in evidence
The problem is that this isn't our evidence, this is staff's evidence. So if all we do is pass this resolution today, staff go to the independent hearings panel and said, it's our view that this doesn't meet the statement of expectation, it's our view that this is not appropriate, we're going to be back where we started.
And the high quality rebuild of Christchurch is predicated, I think, in any sensible person's mind, on the fact that you have good drinking water.
I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is we need to provide an evidential basis for our position. The current evidential basis that we have in this document does not support the position. And when the staff go to the independent hearing panel and provide the evidence that they're asked to give, it will not be reflecting what we want, it will be reflecting what's already written here.
What sort of evidence are you thinking?
I would have thought some legal evidence would be pretty powerful around, whether it's appropriate or not to duplicate a function of the regional council, whether in terms of the statement of expectations, why it meets the statement of expectation, as Vicky
Bridgie,
just
is
said.
the officer reasons here, are they going to become part of the evidence that will be presented?
My understanding is that if there is disagreement with the officer's recommendation, it is highly likely that we would need to find another planner who is not the planner who wrote this to portray that matter through evidence.
Right.
And how would you do that?
Well, we would go out and get another planner who agrees with this position to do that evidence.
So can we do the same for Lifestar?
Pardon me?
Well, we
For
haven't got to them
No,
yet, Yanni.
we
Could we just
So the staff-
focus on the issues that we're trying to address? We said right from the very outset that there were going to be issues,
Yeah.
that the way that the staff have responded to the suggestions from the ministers have left us in a position where we're not able to support those, but for different reasons. And we're going to have to work out how we support our staff through that process, because they are going to have to give evidence. They are not there as advocates. So, and it may well be that on certain issues, we will want to get independent planning evidence in front of the hearings panel on our behalf.
So if you read through the Minister's comments that we've received, he makes repeated reference to the fact that our staff have changed their view on life mark assessment, on environmental standards, and wants us to reflect the changed staff position through a number of these proposals. We've also seen as part of the independent hearing panel that they have been quite critical of our staff over certain things, particularly around the statement of expectation. So, I just don't want to I just want to be clear. I mean, I support what we're doing, and I just want to really have some grunt behind it, so we don't just end up being in the same situation we were in terms of phase 1, where it just gets chucked out because the commissioners...
Yeah, but can we address that?
That is another matter. That is process matter, and it may be if, for example, there wasn't a planner to be found that could support it, we would just simply have to do it through legal submissions. But there is a way for this voice to get through in front of the hearings panel. Doesn't mean to say it will necessarily carry any weight as other rules haven't.
Yeah. So I think that what Yanni's raising, and it's a valid point, is that prior to these ones going, prior to the submissions closing,
yes,
we will have to, at a district plan review subcommittee, just sit down and talk about the strategy of
yes,
certain elements of these, and this is
yes,
one of them. Because,
yes,
I mean, I've made it clear that we do kind of want to protect you guys. You're on the receiving end of the panel, when things are not going particularly well, and I think that behind the scenes you've worked really well with other planners from other cross-government departments in order to get combined solutions, which has been extremely positive, but we don't want to leave you exposed either, any more than our aquifers.
Well, no, I understand that, and thank you for your consideration. We have to be professional in the advice that we give you, and this is the advice that we need to follow as professional planners.
All right, so... Yeah, so no, we haven't passed that, but we're going to have a debate about it if people would like to say a few words about it.
Just the final question from me, just on whether the amendment that we've got sufficiently covers that rural chapter 17 quarry provisions. So there's a number of other things in there that we're taking out. Yeah.
It's just, breaching the 1 metre rule. Yeah, we've still got other...
There were no other particular points that we felt would concern you necessarily. They're mostly process points or clarification points on the rest of the quarrying rules.
So
hang on.
NC4,
Is there a distance one?
So the whole distance one, effectively 250 metres.
Plus another 250 metres from a residential area such as the Roberts Road one. We didn't have a distance in the rural zone or the quarrying zone from any residential area because we didn't get to do that at the time. So what have we got left in here?
So we're not proposing any changes to those provisions that you considered on the 20th of February. So
So if
the
you're abutting-
250 from a residential zone boundary is to be retained.
Okay, and then it was notified within another 250 metres.
But
Yep.
this isn't the,
It hasn't been raised by the ministers.
this isn't in the rural chapter though.
No, it's
In
where-
the
it's the Gilberthorpe's issue.
residential chapter.
No, it sits
It's in
in the
this
rural
one,
chapter,
yeah.
so it was
Right.
from residential zone boundaries
But
for
where there's a
activities
clear
in rural.
residential development right next to it. But what we haven't got is any distance from any quarries in the rural or quarrying zone for a residence. So we've
Right.
got a 250 metre, if you build a house. you
And
have
then
to be
I'm fully
250 metres.
notified
Yeah,
for the 250
But-
beyond.
but if you build a quarry, you can go right up to that person's doorstep, basically.
No. So if it's for a quarrying activity that sits outside the rural quarry zones, it's a discretionary activity unless you're within 250 metres of a residential zone, and then it jumps into a non-complying activity. So as part of that discretionary activity status, any effects on adjoining residential buildings will be considered. And part of that will be distance from any existing dwellings. So it's all part of consideration of a discretionary activity status.
So we can't add at this stage anything that, no, right, okay, so it's fine. And we've left the 500 metres for the residential notification. Okay,
All right, so, yep,
Yeah.
So the other issues, like in the minister's comments, are 17.6.2.1 and 17.6.2.3. And I don't see any response to the timing. Well, it's page 127 and it's page 64 of our agenda, paragraph 282. So it says that issues of clarity exist in relation to quarries in this proposal. P2 should not be arbitrarily limited to 2018, and the need for new houses in a quarry zone needs an explanation. The limitation of 17.6.2.3.
Do you know which page that is in the spiral document?
oh, hang on, I'm going to lose the mover of the motion, so can we just deal with, can we pass this one before Vicky goes?
Yeah.
Yep, okay, right, I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Carried. Very good.